Bitcoin just got rejected at the top of its range as war escalations continue. The US and Iran were not able to come to a deal this weekend in Pakistan. However, Michael Saylor is single-handedly holding up the price of Bitcoin. And in today's video, we'll be talking about exactly this. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Kicking us off with the Bitcoin price action, you can see that we got rejected just below $74,000. Now, this rejection occurred as soon as JD Vance came out and essentially said that they have not reached a deal with Iran.
At it now for 21 hours. And we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. And I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could. And they have chosen not to accept our terms.
Based on this, Bitcoin dumped, but from a technical perspective, the charts were always suggesting that we were seeing some kind of exhaustion, and let's quickly talk about it. So if we go on the one-day time frame, what I really want you to pay attention to here for Bitcoin is that we started to create these pretty big wicks to the upside. So on Tuesday, we had a massive move to the upside for Bitcoin, and then the next few days was a little bit of consolidation. But what I really want you to pay attention to, in particular, is the Thursday candle, because you'll notice that we essentially created a big wick to the upside, sweeping up the liquidity from the prior days where people were shorting, and we weren't able to get any kind of candle closes above that level on a higher time frame basis. So what this means is we're already seeing signs of exhaustion. We got multiple wicks above, but no closes, and that led to a rejection. So from a technical perspective, it made sense to look for shorts at the top of our existing range, which I'll remind you, we've been in for basically 2 months. Now, what is next for Bitcoin? If we go to the 4-hour time frame, you'll notice that we broke below the value area high, which is not what the bulls want to see. If we are to reclaim this yellow line here on the chart, then perhaps it could suggest that Bitcoin wants to make another move towards the local highs, which we're currently below. We're below the anchored VWAP from $97,000, which is this blue line. We're below the previous local highs, and we're now below the value area high. Right now, as I'm recording this video, Bitcoin is just above $71,000, and it looks like we're back testing this value area high, which could be another potential rejection zone. So keep your eyes on this level found just above $71,400 for Bitcoin. If we can't get acceptance above that level, then it would suggest that we can already move lower, as we have already swept some of these lows. So it's going to be a very, very interesting beginning of the week. Speaking of which, you'll want to pay attention to the stock market, because if we do get continuation, of course, that can roll over into Bitcoin. Now, in regards to Bitcoin specifically, we need to talk about something, and that is the fact that we got some ETF inflows late last week. We saw over $500 million worth of inflows at the end of last week, and if this continues, naturally, the price of Bitcoin will rise. But we're still also seeing some continued outflows. There's only one person that can save the day for Bitcoin, and that is Michael Saylor. Now, if you didn't know, Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy has a product which is essentially a preferred stock option. Now, this allows him to have extra liquidity to be able to buy more Bitcoin. Once this goes above $100, it means it's trading at a premium, and with this premium, they are able to buy more Bitcoin. On Friday alone, as the price of Bitcoin was increasing, we saw a purchase of over 3,447 Bitcoins by Michael Saylor. So, if this stretch product remains above $100, meaning it continues to trade at a premium, well, there might be some more buying power for Bitcoin. But from a technical perspective, if you've been tuning into the channel, you know my base case. I think that in the more medium term here, we're going to see Bitcoin drop below $60,000 and likely below $50,000. Now, I will start slowly dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, to repeat myself, as soon as we start heading below 60K, and the lower we go, the more aggressive I get. That's from a spot portfolio perspective. But from a trading perspective, you can see here that my shorts are absolutely printing. Sorry for that terminology, but it is true. My Bitcoin short is looking absolutely phenomenal. And more importantly, my Tau short, which is an altcoin that so many people loved, is looking really, really good at this point. My entry was around 323. The structure looked extremely bearish. And then right now, as I'm recording this video, you can see that the mark price is currently at below 260. I think that this can actually continue to dump because of the FUD that I discussed in my previous video, but also from a technical perspective, the Tau chart just simply wasn't looking too great. This was always going to be a rejection zone. A lot of people get very excited with altcoins and these kinds of bear market rallies, and let's be real, it's still a pretty significant rally. From the low to this high, that's a 157% rally. But when I see these kinds of rallies in bear markets, I get very excited looking for swing shorting opportunities, because from a weekly time frame perspective, you can see that we're essentially just creating lower highs. And it would not surprise me if Tau can make it all the way down to this big zone below $175. So don't be surprised if that happens. This short is looking great. This isn't a call to just say, hey man, start shorting Tau now, because we've already dumped over 20%. But I'm telling you my targets. I do think that this can continue to drop. And as the price of these cryptocurrencies drop, you can also make money on the way down, which is what I try to teach in my trading community. By the way, if you want to join that community, you do have the first link in my description down below. If you DM me the keyword CBM on Telegram, you'll be able to join my private group where I share all of my own personal trades, such as this one where I'm currently up just under 200K on my Tau short position. If that sounds interesting, you know where to find me. Links in the description down below. And on that note as well, I am not a financial advisor. Nothing that I discuss in my group or on the YouTube channel should be construed as financial advice. I'm just a guy on the internet sharing all of his own personal trades and his overall market analysis. So let's take a look at the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map. On the 6-month time frame, there is officially a little bit more cumulative long liquidation leverage in the market compared to cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market. So if you're a bull, this should have you worried, especially if the bear market thesis continues to play out. I'll remind you, the structure from a higher time frame perspective on Bitcoin is still bearish. You can see we had that all-time high, we dropped, had a little bit of relief, we dropped, and now what I think we're seeing right now is a little bit of relief before we continue to drop again. Don't shoot the messenger. And if people have piled into longs in a bear market, well, it would suggest that it will make it very easy for the market makers to just nuke the price. A lot of spot selling for Bitcoin. We're seeing some distribution at the range highs, grabbing all of this downside liquidity. Now, some of you might be asking, okay, Metsier, look, there's a lot of cumulative short liquidation leverage as well. And that is correct. However, we know that in a bear market, price tends to go down versus in a bull market, price tends to go up. And so the only time I really get concerned on this note is if there's way more cumulative short liquidation leverage in a bear market compared to cumulative long liquidation leverage. And the reverse is also true in a bull market. There can be more cumulative long liquidation leverage in a bull market. In fact, there always is, but as long as it doesn't exceed 5x, I'm usually okay with still taking some longs in the market. But right now, being in a bear market and the fact that we have just a little bit more cumulative long liquidation leverage in the market compared to cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market on the 6-month time frame tells you all you need to know. And if I go to the 30-day time frame, it becomes a little bit more significant, more longs in the market. And if we go to the 7-day time frame, technically more longs in the market. And let's just take a look at the 90-day time frame. Again, just a little bit, but more longs in the market. How about the 1-day time frame? I'm just curious. Okay, so today some people have jumped into shorts as Bitcoin got rejected at the top of its existing range. The point is, I still think that Bitcoin will be bleeding lower over the course of this year. You've heard me say it time and time again. If you've been subscribed to the channel, I will do my best to guide you along the way, tell you when I buy spot Bitcoin for the next cycle, but also show my trades, because this is one of my best trades and it's looking like it's lining up very, very well if we get continuation to the downside for both Bitcoin and Tau. And in terms of the US and Iran, I also wanted to bring this to your attention because it came out as I was recording this video. So supposedly the meeting went well. Most issues were resolved. However, the only one that really mattered, nuclear, was not. Now, because of this, effective immediately, the US Navy will begin blockading all ships entering or leaving the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that might sound confusing. Some of you might already know what I'm going to talk about, but there's this speculation that President Trump is playing 5D chess. So now both the US and Iran will be blocking the Strait of Hormuz, but they have different objectives. It appears that Trump's long-term plan is to block Hormuz, gain control, then begin letting traffic flow freely. However, if this is not possible to fully obtain, it will be a long process that would further restrict the flow of traffic for at least another 2 months. And to add to this, we know now that the Navy will be intercepting any vessel that has paid illegal tolls to Iran. Those ships will not have safe passage. US forces will begin clearing Iranian mines in the strait. Any attack on US forces or civilian vessels will be met with overwhelming force. Now, Iran essentially said the exact same thing. If you want to fight fire with fire, then so be it. Something that you need to consider, though, is the fact that despite all of these statements, they're supposedly still going to have a second round of talks. So I'm not quite sure what's going to come out of this. I'll make sure to keep you updated as the news comes out. But this US military blockage of the Strait of Hormuz will start at around 10 a.m. tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as I'm recording this video. That's in approximately 16 hours from now. Now, I also want to bring this to your attention. Britain says it's building a wide coalition with France and other partners to actually keep the Strait of Hormuz open after Trump announced a blockade. So things could get very, very messy. Now, I mentioned Trump potentially playing 5D chess. And why is that? Let's hear what he had to say.
The boats are sailing up and heading out to our country. Big, beautiful tankers, and we're loading them up with oil and gas and everything else. And pretty beautiful thing to see.
So you can see that the boats are supposedly sailing up, according to this map, heading to the US, and they're getting loaded up with oil, gas, and everything else. So at this point, we could technically be seeing most of the world go towards the US for oil. Now, I'm not sure how this would impact global markets. I am not an expert on this matter. I'm just telling you what I see with the Bitcoin chart, and I think we can take opportunities as they come. Overall, I still firmly believe that Bitcoin will be dropping lower over the course of this year, below $60,000. I've repeated myself on this topic, and I will continue to trade the market that is right in front of me. Make money on the way down and make money on the way up. And that sums up today's quick video ahead of the new week. Is this going to be reversal week? Can Michael Saylor single-handedly hold up the price of Bitcoin? Because right now, we just got rejected at the top of our range, and things could get ugly if the war escalations continue. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. As always, I have my bluff and leverage trading tutorial right here, and I'll see you in the next video.